This is a podcast from the Nuffield Department of Medicine. Today we've asked Dr. Zamin Iqbal to tell us about computation and genetics. So tell us a bit about your research interests.
Okay, I work in computational genetics. So every living organism inherits DNA in all of their cells from their parents. And in the process of inheriting it from their parents, you don't quite get an exact copy, you get a few changes that happen. So we call them mutations. That sounds a bit scary, but they're just, this is just the raw material for evolution. This is how we all change. And my interests are in bacteria and parasites, things essentially that give you diseases. And what I study is the nature of their DNA and I write computer programs essentially to compare the DNA of different organisms.
What is the link then between computation and genetics?
So maybe the right way to think about this is DNA is a molecule. It's a long molecule made of an alphabet of just 4 molecules, smaller molecules, which we call ACGNT, just for short. So you can think of it as a long word. Now, if I'm interested in how DNA affects properties of bacteria, how they resist drugs, or why you're taller than I am, then what we want to do is we want to compare those DNA words with each other. And that's the kind of thing that you want to use a computer for. So it makes those kind of jobs much easier.
I see. Can you give us an example, perhaps, of an application for the sort of methods you use?
Sure. So we've spent a lot of the last year looking at DNA of samples taken from people who are ill in the local hospital. And what you can do by looking at the DNA of viruses or bacteria is you can determine the structure of the molecule and something about the properties of it. So bacteria can often be given the property of drug resistance by acquiring a gene from somebody else. They don't just inherit things from their parents, but they swap DNA with their friends. And so you can look for these genes that they've acquired, and if they're there, you can predict that this bug is going to be drug resistant, so you shouldn't use this drug.
I see.
So we've been working on exactly that this year.
I see. What are the most important lines of research that have developed in the past, say, 5 to 10 years?
So I think both the technology and the computer science of genetics have changed radically in the last 10 years. So the biggest change is really that by improvements in this technology called genome sequencing, which basically means it's all the mechanics of being able to work out what the sequence of a DNA word is. We can now go and look at the genome of hundreds or thousands of humans or tens of thousands of bacteria. And so that means we're now interested in a very, very detailed level, the differences between different organisms and how small changes, even within one species, can change the abilities of an organism.
I see. Why does this line of work matter? Why should we put money into it?
One of the things we hear a lot about in the news at the moment is the problem of the rise of antibiotic resistance. So it's a confusing phrase. What it really means is that bacteria on which drugs don't work are becoming more and more common.
I see.
So there's a whole host of bacteria causing a huge number of different diseases that are now spreading on which no drugs work. Now, at a very practical level, my methods are used now, or being tested in hospitals to be able to spot that at the point of treatment. I see.
How does your work fit into translational medicine within the department?
So I work very closely with doctors, microbiologists, infectious disease experts at the John Radcliffe Hospital. And a lot of what I do focuses around trying to develop computer programs that not only will enable them to tell whether or not drugs are going to work for a patient, but also give an answer that they can interpret. You don't need to be a computer genius to work them. You can actually practically use these in the NHS.
I see. That's really interesting, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.